I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop.
Most people have a really, really big misconception about me that I just either have rich parents or I have some man supporting me in my travels or I get everything because of the way that I look. That was one of the biggest hurdles for me to overcome because I really did grow up. The most we were able to do is go to Disney, which now sounds like a luxury when I say it like that because, Disney is expensive to me. I never in my life growing up thought I would ever leave Florida because we just didn't have money to do anything. And I was like, oh, traveling's, for rich people, and I'm never going to be rich. I wanted to be a blogger and a travel writer. And I got thrown into being an influencer by default because I was already on social media and I already had a following.
That is today's guest, Alyssa Ramos from MyLife'sAMovie.com. You heard a little bit about her background there, and I thought this was a wonderful conversation because through this, we get a chance to hear one woman's story and how she became a quote-unquote influencer. And I think when we look at social media and we may take in content from influencers, or if you prefer another word, I think everybody knows what I mean when I'm talking about that. We can get these ideas and paint these broad strokes of who people might be. And this is a chance to just get to know somebody who was one of the first travel blogger and influencers out there, who has now been to 132 countries and counting, mostly solo. She's been traveling and living full time for over 10 years and been to all 7 continents, including Antarctica 4 times and counting. So now she is going to give you advice on how to get to Antarctica if that's something that's on your bucket list. You're also going to hear some other great travel advice like this.
If you just want to travel, you can't really be picky and choosy. And I say that to people all the time. If you have the time and if you just want to start traveling, just play flight roulette. I call it flight roulette. Go to the cheapest country and then from there, do flight roulette and go to the next cheapest country. That's literally how I started traveling so much.
And much more packed into a wonderful show. It's coming at you right now. So buckle up, strap in. Thanks for being here and welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend.
You're listening to the Zero to Travel podcast, where we explore exciting travel-based work, lifestyle, and business opportunities, helping you to achieve your wildest travel dreams. And now your host, world wanderer and travel junkie, Jason Moore.
Hey there, it's Jason here with ZeroToTravel.com. Welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out, letting me bring a little travel into your ears today. This is the show to help you travel the world on your terms, to fill your life with as much travel as you desire, no matter what your situation or experience. And I really enjoyed this conversation with Alyssa that's coming at you today. As I mentioned at the top, I do think it's important to share stories. That's why I love this format. That's why I love bringing the show to you. And I think, I might be biased towards the podcasts, I guess, a little bit after 11 years. But I do like the idea that we can dive a little deeper. It's kind of hard to hide who you are behind, an hour plus conversation. We get to go deeper on things. And I don't think social media really provides that in that way. And that's why I thought it was really interesting to hear about Alyssa's story and sort of the evolution of how she became, accidentally in some ways, a quote unquote influencer, what that really means, how she fell into it, her background. And of course, this is just her story, but I think the broader thing to think about here is, are we as social media consumers painting broad strokes? Are we sort of putting people into labels or buckets and just assuming things about them that aren't true, as you heard Alyssa at the top of the show in that quote I shared, which is why I shared that one. She said a lot of people, get the wrong idea about who she is. And that can happen through social media. So anyway, just a little preface to this conversation. Of course, plenty of travel nuggets, juicy ones coming at you in this chat. Hope you enjoy it. Stick around on the back end. I'll leave you with a quote. Thank you so much for listening, by the way, for being a part of this community. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter over at zerototravel.com/newsletter, it is free. And I send it out once a week, so you can sign up over there. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Alyssa. I'll see you on the other side. Thanks. Alyssa Ramos, welcome to the Zero to Travel podcast, my friend. How you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing really well. I guess sto bene because I'm in Italy for the summer. So it's a nice little warm retreat before going back to Antarctica.
Nice. I can say bienvenidas, right? That would be Spanish. And in Italian, what is welcome in Italian? Should know this.
Benvenuti.
Benvenuti. Does your Spanish can you communicate with the Italians pretty easily? Not easily, but it's sort of like in the same world.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Some people actually know Spanish, which is great. Makes my life a lot easier, of course. But a lot of people don't. But luckily, my Spanish makes it easier for me to pick up the Italian. So that's awesome.
You have Cuban heritage, right?
Yeah. Thanks for knowing that. My family is from Cuba, but I'm born in USA.
Okay, so like both parents fully from Cuba, or is it like half? Okay, yeah, cool. Well, how often have you been back to Cuba?
I've only been there twice. It's a bit difficult, as I'm sure you know, for U.S. citizens to go there. But I am able to go in with the family visit visa, but it's just such a difficult place to travel to because of like the money situation and the visas. So my trips there are limited.
When you go, or when you've been, I should say, how does it feel for you? Do you feel connected in a certain way? I mean, obviously you are connected, but what's the feeling for you having traveled to now 110 countries? I'm just wondering when you go to Cuba, what that feeling is and how it compares.
Now it's actually 132. I travel really aggressively, but it's bittersweet for me. It's also really bittersweet for me to see people posting about Cuba in a way that it's like, oh, this nostalgic place that's trapped in the 50s, but me knowing the true situation there where it's like they don't want to be trapped in the 50s. They're starving. They barely get any food. They barely get any medications. They have hardly any access to the outside world, essentially. So it's not that they want to keep driving around in 50s cars in like belated fashions. It's that they don't have any imports. They don't have an option and they can't leave. So I go there. I like to see where my family's from. I like to see my family. I do enjoy the culture there. I love, regardless, people are happy, even if they're completely broke. So it's like it's humbling to be there. It's a beautiful place. Obviously, the Caribbean island is going to be beautiful as well. It's cool to see the culture preserved. But again, it is sad that they're kind of forced to preserve it without, the option to.
Yeah.
progress.
Yeah. Thanks. I appreciate that perspective. I mean, isn't that one of the goals as a traveler is to kind of, how can we get below the surface level charm, let's call it, right? Like some of these places where you see, oh, well, this is, like you said, you mentioned cars from the 50s is so charming. I mean, certainly being from the US and seeing something old, like a physical object, like an old vehicle might have a certain, of course, like powers of nostalgia that just sweep over you. But at the same time, as a traveler, like that's what we are trying to do is get below that surface level of charm. But, you're trying to enjoy the place for what it is, but you can only understand so much passing through. Like, how do you,
Exactly.
that sort of same mentality, you with having a familiarity being Cuban, coming from a Cuban family, and knowing that history, how do you kind of translate that to other places you visit? How do you kind of get under the skin?
Well, now that I've been traveling for 10 years, January was my 10-year anniversary, and I've actually lived in quite a few places. For me personally, it's getting to know a place on the level of it, like living there, I guess you would say. So what I've come to notice in the most recent years is most people when they travel, they go to the places that people say to travel to, the tour companies say to travel to. They go to the old towns that are basically set up to show you like what tourists want to see. But for me, I no longer really see that. Like, for example, I'm living here in Sardinia. This is just very normal for me. I go to the normal restaurants with the locals. I go to the normal beaches. I don't just go to the old town and have gelato and, you know, the spaghetti for the tourists because I'm actually here, living here, understanding the lifestyle. And another good example of that is that I've been to Egypt probably 12 times now. I host trips there and also in India. That's another good example. What you see on social media and on TV and in movies is just the old towns of these places and the ruins. So that's what most people want to see. I obviously really want to see that too. But I've had to live in both of those places, mostly for work, and it's completely different. Like most people don't realize they're Arabic and a Muslim country, so the lifestyle is completely different than what you might think of this nostalgic charm of like, you know, like in Egypt maybe you're an Egyptian goddess or like that's what you think of it in Egypt, but none of that's even practiced today in Egypt. You know, it's an Arabic country. They don't believe in Egyptology. They, you know, believe in their religion. So it's always interesting to see the real life of countries versus what they want to show you for tourism purposes.
It's good to have both sides, I feel, as a traveler, right? Of
Oh,
course, like
for sure.
you want to see the ruins, you want to see the history and everything
Yeah.
like that. But then there's also, I feel like you can get like, maybe it's in a different way, but there's almost some kind of equally as great satisfaction sitting in some local place that you know you're just surrounded by locals and there's nothing special about it, and maybe the bathroom's kind of dirty and like people are looking at you weird because like what are you doing here and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, cool, I made it someplace
Yeah.
here.
And even just doing basic things, I find very like empowering. Like, for example, I have maybe a nail appointment later today, and the fact that I even know how to figure out how to find a nail salon and go get my nails done in a foreign country where hardly anyone speaks English is like, yeah, I just exist here, and everyone is just like me. We just have different cultures and languages.
Yeah, I mean, some of the value of living in a place or slow travel, we could say, is doing those exact things. I think like those, like getting your nails done or whatever, like those sort of things that everyday people that are living there do. If you're doing those things, you're going to end up in these places just chatting with locals. It's like it's impossible not to, right?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you got to go get your hair cut, you got to get your nails done, you know?
Yeah. I'm not going to fly all the way back to the US just to go get my nails done. I'm going to go find out anywhere to find a salon in any country I'm in.
What do your parents think about all of the traveling? I guess they're used to it at this point, but was that a bit of a journey for them to get used to, hey, this is kind of how Alyssa rolls, like she's not going on the sort of conventional path?
To be honest with you, I've never really been on a conventional path ever since I was little. I just always tended to do the opposite of what everyone else was doing. And also my mom was a flight attendant. I think I contracted some of her genes. So when I first started mentioning my interest in traveling, I was 26, so it wasn't like I was super young. And I had actually like quit. I had left my very expensive university degree, biology. I had left my salary job. I had left like my almost engagement with my past relationship. And I was like, I'm just going to start new and find out what I'm supposed to be doing because this is not it. And then I finally was like, I want to go travel. And my mom's like, okay, so go. I'm like, but what if I become broke? She's like, then you'll figure out how to make more money like you always do. And I was like, true. So I first went, she was a little scared, but, by the way, I grew up with a single mom. So that's why I'm just talking about my mom. But she was really supportive, and that's what really kind of like made me be like, okay, well, she doesn't think I'm crazy, then this must be okay. So from then, it's just been like there's been a handful of destinations where she has begged me slightly to not go to because she, like most people, sees things on the news and hears about things and is like, it's really dangerous there. I really don't think you should go, especially since I always go alone usually. but I end up going anyway. And she's like, "Oh, wow, you're right. It looked really cool." So yeah, she's
Yeah.
super supportive. She gets to go on one trip per year with me for free. And yeah, whenever now she's retired, so we're gonna probably go a few more places, which is like one of my biggest end goals is to be able to take my mom wherever she wants.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about solo travel. You mentioned that briefly, and that's a big part of what you do. And I think this is an important topic. The idea that your mom goes on a free trip once a year, is that like an arrangement you two have together? Is kind of like a thing that you do or is it something different?
I'm kind of in charge of it because with my collaborations, so a big way that I was able to travel the world. Some of them will give me a +1, and I'll usually give it to her if she can swing it. And then now my bigger project is my group trips, and I'm in control of those. So if I say I have a +1, I have a +1. So I'll get her a spot. She gets to pick one, and then she just gets the flight. She just meets. Yeah, she'll meet me usually. We've only gone a few places where I don't really go to the United States anymore. So there's only a few times that we've actually left from the same airport.
Hmm. I love that. How rewarding that must be to be like, all right, I'm running. Not only am I running this trip, but my +1's my mom, and you get that's so cool. Well, you mentioned on your website, which we're going to link it to it all in the show notes, everything here, My Life's a Movie and .com, and your podcast, which is new. We can talk about that. Welcome to the travel podcasting world, by the way. Welcome edition.
I don't think I'm ever going to be as good as you at it, but I was like, I have things to say. I'm just going to start talking and see if anyone listens.
I gave it a listen. It sounded great. We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. I know you love earning travel rewards and cash back, and that's why you're going to love Rakuten. With Rakuten, you can earn cash back on everything you need to book your dream trip, hotels, flights, rental cars, experiences, and more, while still booking through your favorite travel sites. And don't worry, cash back can be earned on top of earning the credit card points and the hotel and airline loyalty points that matter most to you, depending on how you make your booking. Plus, with Rakuten, you can also earn cash back on groceries and other purchases like electronics, pet supplies, and more. And the best part, you can join today for free and start earning cash back on top of your travel rewards. Go to Rakuten.com or get the app. That's Rakuten, Rakuten. Rakuten, the most rewarding way to shop. Now, back to the show. On your website, you had a spot where you said you grew up poor with a single mom and 4 siblings. And I was wondering, it sounds like you alluded to that a little bit, that you were having a mom who's supportive. Sounds like she had an abundance mindset. But, you're still coming with this background, and then you're going to traveling full time, which I think now perhaps it's a little more like people understand, okay, that's possible. But even still, there's always going to be these mindset hurdles you got to jump over. And I'm just wondering, for you coming from that background that you mentioned on your website, what was the hardest part? Like, what mindsets did you have to change? How did you change them? I guess I'm just, kind of looking for your personal story, but maybe some advice in there too.
For sure. Thanks for noticing that as well. That is something that I try to mention to people because most people have a really, really big misconception about me that I just either have rich parents or I have some man supporting me in my travels, or I get everything because of the way that I look. And that was one of the biggest hurdles for me to overcome because I really did grow up like we couldn't. The most we were able to do was go to Disney, which now sounds like a luxury when I say it like that because Disney is expensive to me. But I never in my life growing up thought I would ever leave Florida because we just didn't have money to do anything. And I was like, oh, traveling's for rich people, and I'm never going to be rich. So, but I didn't like to accept that. I didn't like to accept that concept because I watched my mom struggle, but she never complained. So she had like not the best job. She was maybe a secretary, or she was like, working. She worked with a lot of charity, like Foster Kids Association and things like that, like government jobs. So she wasn't even making that much money, and she had these 4 kids to take care of. And I remember just like always dreading, just like it was just embarrassing. Like I never got to have new clothes, or like I had to use the free and reduced lunch. I never got to have like the cool food that the regular kids had. And I saw my mom do all of this without a male figure or anyone helping her. And I was like, I don't ever want to take money from her. I don't ever want to ask her for money. I don't want to ask anyone for money. I don't want anyone to give me money. I just want to start working, and I'm going to make my own money, and I'm going to live my own life. And like my biggest dream, I swear, when I was in like middle school, maybe I wanted a 1-bedroom apartment. Like by the time I was in high school, it was so ridiculous, but that's what I wanted. So I started working when I was like 13, which in the US, that's not normal. In other places, of course, it's normal, but I was a waitress illegally when I was 13, and I was just hustle like after school, and like as much as I could work, I would work, save up all my money, buy myself a car. When I was 17, I moved out. I was still in high school, but I got my own apartment finally. And I just like kept that mentality. I just wanted to like make my own money and, you know, make my own needs and wants and dreams come true. So when I started doing the blogging stuff, I skipped something. I accidentally moved to LA at one point. I was like 21 or 22, I think. And that's when I left everything in Florida, because I felt so much pressure being out of college. All of my sorority sisters were like getting married or talking about marriage and getting these like really good high paying jobs. And I was just like, I don't even know what I want to be doing right now. Like, I don't like the job that I went to college for. I kept like quitting and finding new jobs and then quitting those because I hated working for people. And then I went to LA and I discovered that people in LA are unlike anyone I've ever met before in my life, because they don't have this concept where you have to have a 9-to-5 job. You have to have a job in order to live and survive. You have to have this relationship where you're like getting married right away. It's like the polar opposite. Like, I was like, do people even work here? I'm confused why I'm always seeing people walking around and everyone's asking me to do things in the middle of the day. Like, why don't they have to work? And I like learned, because there's all these different opportunities to make money. You don't just have to be in an office. So that's when I discovered how to even be a writer, because I found freelance writing jobs in Hollywood online off of, like, remember when Craigslist was sketchy?
Yeah.
I found my first writing jobs on Craigslist, and they were legit.
Wow.
Like, I got paid to do content writing. So I just went from there. I like just realized I could take as many jobs as possible. No one would know how many jobs I had, because I was always in front of the computer. And I just kept taking any job that I would get accepted to and saving up all my money just to like exist in LA without having to be confined to an office or a relationship that I have to depend on for finances. And then, yeah, I saved up enough money to finally have the idea, oh, maybe I should like go see the world, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So your strategy in that sense was, at that point, you were just saving up money to go travel, or were you planning on working and traveling? Because once you figured out the freelance writing thing, you're like, oh, I can do this from the road? Or was it just like, I'm going to save up money and hit the road?
I just wanted to make money to survive and have financial freedom so that I didn't have to like worry about working, basically. And then I started a blog that was about Hollywood, actually. Before it was travel, it was about Hollywood. It was all like, so I was going to all of the Hollywood events and the red carpet events, and my new writing career, like I was a journalist. I became a journalist randomly for an LA magazine. I became a publicist assistant. So it was called My Life's a Movie because I was living in Hollywood, like with all the celebrities and doing all the movie stuff. And then I was like, okay, this is getting like superficial and redundant. But the idea with the blog in general was to make money like through ad revenue with my blog. That was my goal. So that would be my main job. So I didn't have to be like a content writer for other people. I would write for myself and I would get paid to be a writer. So that was my goal. And I didn't realize how I guess valuable it was at the moment that I didn't have to be anywhere. I loved it. I would work from the pool while everyone else is in an office. I would work, you know, from the restaurants, not really the restaurants because I was still broke back then. I was more like the pools. And then, and then when I took my first trip, I was like, oh, I don't have to be anywhere. I can literally be in any country doing the same work. I just need Wi-Fi in my computer. So then I got back from my first trip and I was just like, a whole new world had opened up to me. And I was like, the only thing I want to do in my life is get paid to travel. And I just like never stopped. I was like this is my dream. This is going to happen. I know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to take everything I learned in LA. I'm going to take everything I learned from being a journalist and a publicist assistant, and I'm going to put it towards myself. I'm going to make myself famous. um, and I did. I ended up getting everything that I was doing for the celebrities. I ended up getting for myself. Like I
Right.
made myself known, I guess.
Well played, Alyssa. Well played.
Yeah. My boss, he was my last boss ever in 10 years. My very last boss, the publicist. He's still like, if I ever go to LA, he'll meet me for lunch and stuff. He's just like, wow. He's like, I'm impressed. That's awesome.
That's great. Well, I mean, in a way, just getting out of Florida and going to LA, you could say, well, that's, and if you call that travel because you moved there, but it was you putting your physical body in a different surrounding and learning from that experience of being around a different energy, different people. And I mean, it's like in that way, that was sort of the first trip, if you want to call it that. But what was the first trip? The one that kind of, you said I went on this trip and it blew my mind and I'm like, now I just want to do this.
Yeah. I for some reason was like, I'm going to go volunteer in Africa because that's what you do when you haven't traveled and you have unbeknownst white savior syndrome. Whatever, I think that's what it's called, white savior syndrome. Complex, white savior complex. You're like, oh, I feel really like, I feel like I'm really well off right now. I need to go do something that I'm going to help other people. And I was like, I'm going to go find a volunteer program and go to Africa. The bigger letdown was when I went to go search for flights, and I realized that the flight to and from LA to South Africa was like way out of my budget. But I was so determined to go that I was like, let me just see if I can do some flight hacking. And that's when I figured out how to actually use Skyscanner. And I do one-way flights, and you can choose to anywhere. So I did that from South Africa, Cape Town to anywhere, and it was like $100 to go to Bangkok. And I was like, oh, okay, let me try again from there. So I did Bangkok to anywhere, and it was like $300 to go to Cape Town. Not Cape Town, to Sydney, Australia. And then I did it again. I said, let's see how much it is for Sydney to go to anywhere in California, anywhere in the United States. And to LA was $800, which was, heartbreaking. But those 3 flights were the same price as if I would have just done a round trip from LA to South Africa. So I ended up going to 3 countries and 3 continents for my first solo trip.
I love it. The anywhere strategy. I mean, when you're on a budget and you just want to go somewhere, isn't anywhere good enough? Right?
Yes. And that is honestly how I acquired so many countries so fast.
Yeah, because you were just willing to go and wherever it was affordable, kind of like, well, I mean, if you're curious and you're a traveler, it's like, it really can be anywhere in many ways, right? It's just like, let's just show up and see what this place is all about.
No, that's the mentality to have. If you just want to travel, like you can't really be picky and choosy. And I say that to people all the time. If you have the time and if you like just want to start traveling, just book flight, like play flight roulette. I call it flight roulette. Go to a country or go to the cheapest country. And then from there, do flight roulette and go to the next cheapest country. That's literally how I started traveling so much.
Well, I mean, I appreciate hearing your story and giving us the background because, I'm not sure. I'm guessing, well, you have a tour company, but it seems like, at least according to your website and everything, if you're going to identify as something you had been identifying as an influencer, I'm using that in air quotes. And I think when people, if they might go on your Instagram or think about influencer and they see like, the shots and all, I think there's a big difference between what you do. Cause you're sharing, like you have the one shot over the waterfall. I forget where it was, Devil Falls or whatever. And you're like showing behind the scenes how they're like holding your legs and you're like over the edge. With social media, it's just so easy for people to kind of generalize, oh, they're travel influencers. They're like, and then so like, I appreciate you hearing your background because now people can go and they can look at your Instagram and they can see all like the sort of the influencer, let's use the word photos, and understand like there's the person behind this, where you're coming from. It's important.
I prefer to write these days because, actually, like I was saying, like I got into all of this because I was a writer. I wanted to be a writer. The term influencer did not exist when I started my blog. I wanted to be a blogger and a travel writer. And I got thrown into being an influencer by default because I was already on social media and I already had a following. So it's been like, I think there's only been like maybe a year maybe I'll go 2 to 3 years of peak when I liked the whole influencer thing, because it started out, I was one of the very, very first travel bloggers slash influencers. Okay. There's like, I can count maybe 6, 7 of us on the top of my head. But we, we used to get so much crap for saying that we're even travel bloggers, because people are like, that's not a real job. Stop showing off that you're traveling. Da 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 da. And then once social media became popular and more people wanted to be travel bloggers, then the influencer thing happened. And then suddenly everyone's an influencer. I was like, oh, great. Now I don't have to convince people that what I'm doing is a real job. So it became easier for me to get collaborations. And for many, many years, my sole income was just social media collaborations. Like, people didn't care about my blog anymore, but they just wanted Instagram posts. And I was like, great, that's way easier for me. But then it got oversaturated. And it's partially people like me's fault, because we showed that it was possible to do this as a job. And I even did like blogger boot camps and how to be an influencer. And I'm like, why did I do that? Because that just oversaturated my own career, you know? So then that's when I started to pivot, and I opened the tour company, which isn't really a tour company because I hire tour companies. It's just my group trips for my followers. But that has made my life a lot less stressful, a lot more freeing. I don't have to depend on random emails coming in saying that they want to hire me to go cover, this country on this tour. I can now say which countries I am going to, and I'm going to bring people to.
Sure. I mean, I appreciate your unconventional approach. I mean, if you rewind the clock, like you said, at that time, taking all the skills that you had built in LA and then creating this career for yourself that didn't really exist and then became something that became mainstream, but you were in it when it wasn't. Okay, just for you, like on that journey, kind of thinking back and rewinding, and you're like, all right, this is something, even though if people don't think it's something, this is something and it's going to be something. Is that part of it, like trusting yourself? Is there like a spiritual element? You're like, I'm trusting in the flow of this. It feels right. Is it like just business and analytical and kind of like looking at the landscape? What is that for you in your head when you're deciding to pivot or commit to something? Like now you've pivoted to the tour company.
Maybe I think I'm psychic. I don't know. Just kidding. No, but like I was saying, I have such a hustle mentality, and from like birth, I've been very stubborn and going against the flow of things. So whenever I have an idea, there's like literally nothing that will stop me from trying to at least make it happen. And the second it starts to happen, I just run with it. And I remember when I was first starting out, and I had to like convince brands first of all, I had to convince them what it even was like the benefit of giving me a free hotel room in exchange for me posting about on social media, because no one believed that social media was going to be anything. And I just kept the mentality, fake it till you make it. I lived in Hollywood. People do that all the time. So I was like, yeah, I'm this travel blogger, and then I really did become that travel blogger. Like, I was in every top 10 list. I was on every major media outlet. Like, I've been on Forbes, on HuffPost. I've written for HuffPost and then got featured on HuffPost later on. All of the top travel websites I've been on, and I've spoken at conferences. And it wasn't, I think, till I started getting asked to speak at conferences that I was like, I really did make it. That's cool. And then, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just on that though, that can be the danger of it too. I feel like when and this, right? Like looking at the external validation as a sign that you made it, where it really should, I understand from a business standpoint, it's like, the measure of your business success is, you could say, is it's money, right? Like it directly correlates, like how are you solving this problem? Are you getting paid to do it? Like you could say that, but there's a lot of nuance there, right? And, with social media and like the influencer thing, and then, getting this invited to speak and stuff like that, part of that is sort of there's that element of it too. Like, how did you, for your own personal journey, how was that like, in going with the influencer stuff, like putting yourself out there and first, like trying to like, just be willing to do it and accept some of like the haters gonna hate, and that kind of stuff. Like was there a process to like dealing with all that and like kind of?
That's exactly what I was thinking of. And you completely nailed it. Like I would say the first maybe 5 or 6 years, I thought everyone just hated me. Like I would get such hate comments like, oh, like I was telling you before, oh, tag your sponsor, like what rich man's paying for you. So it was to the point where I didn't show my face on any blog picture or in any social media post. I think for the first 3 years of my career, because I was like, okay, I'll show you that I can do all this and go to all these places without, my looks having anything to do with it. And I remember someone, I think it was Jessica Nabongo, coming up. We were speaking at the same conference, and it was right before she had gone to all the countries. And she said to me, "Wow, it's so good to meet you. Like, I love your post, but I always wondered, like, a few of us were talking. We wondered if, like, maybe you had a defect on your face, and that's why you never show your face or something."
Oh my.
I was like, no. But then
you're like, no, I just want to prove you all that I could do it.
Yeah. I was like, no, I just know that people are judging me, and I want to make sure that I prove myself first before I show you who I am. So it was a lot of internal self-consciousness that people were just constantly judging me. But then it got to the point where I like had to like come to my senses and realize that like it had a lot to do with traveling solo, where when people were just like wanting to be nice to me. So I was like really like standoffish as well when I was traveling. I thought everyone was out to get me. I thought everyone was judging me. I still suffer from that complex now today. Like I think people are just like always judging me, but then I'm like, no, you know what? Maybe they just like my outfit. Maybe they just like think that I look like cool or something. And I had to like let my guard down a lot with social media, while still keeping my foot down and not letting any negative people like affect my work and affect my dreams. Because there were negative people, but I would just reply like very calmly, like my 2 cents, or I just delete the comment. But now I'm really grateful that I've grown such a dedicated audience that I don't even have any hate comments, because people have been following me for so long that it's just like either they're going to say something because they like the picture or the video, or they're just not going to say anything at all. But yeah, it's just such a crazy transition, because I was so excited when I could start using my photos that to me are art, as my career. But then now it's like none of the platforms even value photos unless you're a super, super professional photographer. Now everything has to be a video, which is like, it's cool to do the behind the scenes stuff, because I want people to see how much of a struggle it is sometimes and how funny it is that like the picture's not actually what you think it is. But it's just like a whole other brand pretty much.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of social media now?
I am eternally grateful for social media. It has given me my dream life for the last 10 years, and I'm still, honestly, I don't really look at anyone else's posts really, unless I'm like, I don't know, bored trying to go to sleep. Because I've spent so many hours on my own social media that I don't even want to look at it. I want to go outside and look at like the beach or something. But I think it has given me and so many other people a really big opportunity. However, I think that I don't want to say lucky, because I don't believe in luck. I believe in the universe, sorry, I remember you asked me a question earlier, and that was my answer to that, is I do believe the universe has had a very big role in the progression of my life. And a lot has to do with being optimistic, positive, manifesting, and trusting that I think that's supposed to happen at certain times. So anyway, I think that I was in the right place, right time, right ideas when the boom and the peak of social media happened. Now I think it's complete chaos. Like every month or so, there's like a new platform or a platform extending something. Like now there's Threads, and now TikTok is having their own little version of Threads, and now Twitter is X, which I think is stupid, and like all these different things. And I'm like, I don't even want to keep up. I'll just stick with my Instagram, because I know that's where my audience is, and that's like my job. But there was a point where I was like, it was unhealthy. Like I was trying to keep up with every single platform to stay on top. And I was working so much and so hard, and I was like so hard on myself that like I was probably unknowingly like depressed, especially like, cause if you're an influencer, blogger, or public figure of any sort, your career depends on people viewing your posts and engaging on them. Like it's not a personal thing. It's like I don't feel any better about how cool I am if people like my photo. I need people to like my photo so that I can show that I can sell things to people, you know? So it's super stressful. I remember just like my life for several years was just nonstop on the go, travel, and then go back home or to the hotel and just work all night. And that's all I did was like go out, get all the content, go home, edit it all, and then post it.
We'll get back to the interview in just a moment. Now, back to the show. I mean, since you've been around it for so long, I'm wondering your feelings on social media as it relates to travel and destinations is having an impact on destinations. So like the waterfall example where you're seeing in person, like people are going there and they're maybe going to these places that I've read about that are getting overrun just because people want the same shot on Instagram. And I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on that in terms of like how it impacts the destination? Like, is it overblown? Is it legitimate? What are your thoughts?
That's always a double-edged sword for me as well. And not to make a plug or anything, but I'm really trying to work on my second book because it basically says the tell-all behind the scenes of like the trickery basically behind social media, where it all really is just a big PR and marketing firm stunt. I don't know what you would call that. Because like people, tourism boards, tour companies, hotels, they pay us to show their businesses. That's marketing. And the more money you have, the more publicity you can get. So what happens when you're a small country, you have absolutely zero budget to have someone go there and show how beautiful it is, you don't benefit. So that's why for me, it's like a double-edged sword. Again, it's like all the places that have the budget to make themselves popular are popular. The places that don't have to hope that there's someone like me who really just likes to go to really rare, random places like Burundi and Papua New Guinea and shows it. And then suddenly it becomes popular because this person that people trust went there and said it was a great place. But it's true that there's just these token places that have that one post, that one picture, that one video, and then suddenly everyone wants to go there just for that one thing. And maybe they don't really care about, the culture or if it's difficult to even travel there. And if it is just like a tourist stunt, like an example for that is the World Wonders, the new 7 World Wonders list. I'm forever annoyed. I went to all of them. I went to check them out. I went to all 7 man-made wonders, all 7 natural wonders, and most of them I was like, why is this considered a world wonder and not like this, and this? And then I looked more into it. It's because it was a marketing thing. It was like someone came up with this like contest, and all of these different tourism boards paid to be in it, basically. And then people who have never been to any of the places voted based on photos.
That's depressing. Are you writing an expose? I have to ask you.
It's pretty much an expose. It's something along the lines of like, it's like the creation of the travel creator, basically, something like that. Because like, there's just so much shadiness in general behind social media. It's like, I remember when a lot of the top, you think, travel influencers today, I know them personally, and I know that they've cheated to get ahead. Like, they paid to get ahead. Like, but yeah, they're seen as like the top travel influencers. I'm like, no, they just had money at the time, and they were able to grow their audience through giveaways or shout outs or things like that. And then it's just, yeah, there's a lot behind it. So I guess maybe it is an expose. Who knows?
Yeah, go for it. Well, I mean, let's talk a little bit about your first book. And this is going to tie in with some travel advice here because it's called Yes, I'm a Woman and I'm Traveling Alone. Great title. And your subtitle here, Struggles and Success of one of the first solo female travel influencers. We've talked a lot about the influencer thing, but just solo female travel in general. I think, you've been to, now you said 132 countries. A lot of these you've gone to alone. And I just want to get your thoughts on solo travel. How did it start for you? I guess the main question I have is, what does solo travel give your soul that other types of travel does not, whether it's like traveling with a couple or friends or whatever, because they all have their perks. But, I feel like with solo travel, it gives you something different.
Yeah, it's definitely solo traveling has made me into the person I am today, and I will be forever grateful for it. If anyone is considering doing it, it's probably the best thing you could ever do for yourself. Even if you are in a relationship or you're, if you prefer to be with friends or you're scared, there's nothing that will ever compare to taking a trip by yourself. It's one of the most liberating and empowering things ever. And it gives you a chance to really find out this sounds so cliche, like find yourself, but like it's true. Like you don't have anyone judging you. Like you don't have your friends or your family judging you, or like, you don't have to feel the need to act a certain way because you're never going to see people again, or there's no one even there in general. Maybe you're in a remote area of Iceland and, you just want to sing out loud and do some fun dances. It's just like, it's so incredible. And honestly, I didn't go travel solo in the beginning because I was trying to find myself. I went because no one would go with me. And this is like everyone, there's so many, I feel so cliche even saying things like this because I feel like I see posts about this all the time, but it's true. When I was living in LA, all of my friends had either 9 to 5 jobs or they were so involved in like Hollywood scene life that they just didn't see a point in wanting to go to South Africa or Thailand. Or maybe they had the mentality that those are trips you do like with a significant other, or like you do that once in your life and you can't just like leave for a month to go traveling. And I actually canceled my first trip. I lost a lot of money in my mind back then because I couldn't get a deposit back and I refused to go by myself. So then that's when I was telling you that my mom was the one that was like, you keep talking about traveling. Why don't you just go by yourself? I was like, that's so weird because I'm 26. People are expecting me to get engaged soon. Like society says that I have to be married by like 30 or 28. I pop out some babies by 30. And I was like embarrassed. I was like, what if people online see that I'm alone? And they're like, why is she alone? But, and I still felt that way for, several of the places that I went to. Even today, sometimes, like, I get so agitated. Not so agitated, but there are some times when there's only a certain number of times that someone can ask me, are you alone? When I'm trying to eat by myself, that it's like, do you see anyone else anywhere near me? Yeah. Yeah. Clearly I am alone. Why are you asking?
With solo travel, you mentioned the eating thing, and that sounds like a small thing. It's like, but that can be the type of thing that puts people off. Like it's just saying, I don't want to eat meals alone, and that might be, and I can understand like that can be a process for people to become comfortable with, even though it sounds like a silly thing, right? You're just sitting there eating a meal, but you're in a restaurant, you're alone. I'm just using that as an example of one sort of simple everyday thing that can actually put people off from solo travel. And I feel like using that situation as an example, it's those types of things that happen as a solo traveler, like sitting in a restaurant on your own or whatever, that kind of forces you to get comfortable in your own skin, right? Like even if you don't feel comfortable there and you feel like, oh, people are judging me or whatever, it's just like, well, you're going to have many meals alone. You're going to be traveling alone for a month. Like you're going to sort of get used to it, right? It kind of forces you to get used to a lot of different things and be with yourself.
Yeah. It forces you to enjoy your own company, which I think is one of the most important things in the world.
Yeah.
And it basically forces you to be confident.
Yeah. So for you, what are the top 3, would you say, just off the top of your head, and just go with your gut here, but recommended solo travel destinations for somebody taking their first solo trip? 3 places you might send them.
Well, this depends on the person, of course, because something else that I hear aside from people not having like the confidence to like handle being seen alone or feeling alone is most women do have a general fear of like something happening to them. So safety is something to consider. And I think if you're going to go anywhere solo, you need to go somewhere where it's very normal to be alone. So basically anywhere in Europe. But even Europe, though, I extract that statement because, when you see everyone in Europe, you always see people eating with friends or a partner, and that can be really intimidating. Like for me, I know, like, I don't like a lot of times going and sitting by myself because everyone is like out eating and drinking with friends. It's like a social thing to do. So I'm going to go with places that are solo travel, like digital nomad friendly. They're, again, probably pretty cliche and overpopular, but like, I think Mexico, like Playa del Carmen area and Tulum, people probably won't agree with me on that, but I chose to actually like get a property there because I felt so comfortable being there by myself because there's so many other people there like me and people are really kind to you there. Um, Another place, obviously, that has a big expat community, didn't know like how community is in Bali, but that's like a find yourself type place. But I really liked Iceland. Iceland was like very, if you like to be, if you're like more introverted than extroverted and you don't want slash need to be around tons of people, like immersing yourself in a nature destination is like really, really amazing. That was one of my first solo trips that I absolutely loved. Um, I did love doing Japan solo because everyone's so polite that they don't even like look at you. However, it's just too difficult to navigate because there's just like zero English and zero written English. So it might be a little intimidating. Otherwise, Australia is really cool. It's completely, different landscapes, and everyone speaks English, which would make it easier for you if you're a first time solo traveler. Yeah, it's just really diverse there too. I love it.
Great recommendations. The other thing I will just add that you mentioned a bit earlier was that you went because nobody would go with you, and that's, I think that's one of the biggest perks after you solo travel is it frees you from this idea that you have to wait for somebody else to go with you, which opens up the whole world.
Hmm. Yeah, it really does. Because that's like one of the most important things to understand is like once you realize that you can do things on your own, there's really nothing holding you back, like in life, in travel, in general. I stopped assuming that I needed this relationship that like, I mean, this I think pertains more to women most of the time, but I feel like they worry so much about, well, I can't keep traveling. I'm getting older. I have to find a relationship, da da da. But like some of them, like maybe don't consider that. What if the person you're supposed to meet is someone you're going to meet while you're traveling, doing what you love?
Mm. And that's what you
Speaking from
did, right? Because you just got engaged, didn't you? Congratulations, by the way. How did that go
Thank
down?
you.
Where did you guys meet?
I was traveling solo. I had just finished a group trip, a Euro wine group trip. So we did 3 countries, with a group. And then I finished in Tuscany, and one of my friends, from college, actually, I wasn't even expecting, was like, let's do Amalfi Coast. And I had never done like a girls trip like that. 'Cause I do more like adventure stuff. So she came and she was like, I know she was like diehard wanting to meet an Italian boyfriend. And I was just like, whatever. I'm swearing off men this year, actually. So whatever. Um, and, and I really was too because I was about to go freeze my eggs in Spain and I was really excited about it. And then she had to go home to work and I was like, I'm going to keep going. I've always wanted to go to Sardinia. And I actually happened to get a collaboration in an area called Bonnet, which I had really wanted to see anyway. And the woman in charge of it like sponsored my tours and stuff. So she sent me on like a sailboat ride. And then it was just I was supposed to get to a winery to do a tasting, but I missed it. It closed because we were having too much fun on the boat. So she like did some calls and she's like, can you please go to this other one? They're open until 9. And I was like, I'm so tired. I was on the boat all day. Da, da, da. She's like, please, I really want you to see it. I was like, okay, fine. And so I'm sitting there like buzzed with my dog, with like looking like I just swam off a boat. And I was doing the wine tasting and this guy walked by. And then the lady who was doing my wine tasting was using the Google Translate app to show me what he was trying to say to me because he was eating with his family. And he had tried to invite me over to eat with him and his family. And I was like, no. So that was me being like not very confident. And then I was like, he can meet me for a drink later, maybe, I guess. And then he did. And the next day we had lunch, but then I left to go freeze my eggs. And then we just kept talking for a few months and I was just not expecting much from it because, you have a business in another country. He has his business here. It's not like he's going to drop everything and come travel with me. And so I was like not thinking much of it. And then he's like, okay, I don't have to work for the next 5 months. Season's over. I'm going to come see you in Mexico. I was like, what? And then, yeah.
The rest is history.
Yeah.
Amazing. Congratulations. Well, we're going to get into the Antarctica tips because I know you have some actionable stuff to share. But since you brought up freezing your eggs, I was wondering if you could talk about the decision, like why you shared it. And because I know you had a post about it and and then you got some people, like a lot of men leaving comments, which like, why is it their business? But this might be some empowering stuff for some people listening to hear. So
Yeah, it's really interesting to me. The topic of women's reproductive systems on social media, I cannot figure out why it offends so many people. But it kind of entertains me to see people get offended because it just doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know why anyone cares what I do or if I have a baby or if I don't have a baby. Like, unless you love babies that much, all I can really think of in my head is that people want me to have to suffer the way they suffered through childbirth and then through like having to like change your life in order to, take care of another human. So anyway, I these days do not give a F. I share what I do and I don't really hide anything. Like if people have a problem with it, great, I'll get higher engagement on my posts. But I know more importantly that from me saying it, it's going to benefit more people than it matters how many I have said. And that was something important with solo traveling is that I got so much like haters, but the amount of emails and DMs I got from women thanking me for empowering them to just take a trip by themselves is a lot more valuable to me than, the pain or annoyance I get from haters. So anyway, I'm also very open about my, relationships, I guess, because, everyone knows my business anyway. They see what's on my stories. So I had said back in January of last year that I had just ended a relationship. It just became too toxic. And I share that not to be like a hater on these men, but because I know so many women who are in the same situations, but they don't have the confidence or the strength to leave. So they stay. So I just share my story on how I leave, why I left, and I just, show that they're not alone. And even someone like me, who everyone thinks is like, oh, the perfect life, traveling the world, getting paid to travel, getting to do all this fabulous stuff, like I still fall victim to toxic relationships in my life. So, that there was a point where I was like realizing that, I was getting a little overcome by societal pressure once again, as we do. And so many people were like, but you're now 35. Aren't you thinking about babies? I'm like, if I was thinking about babies, I would be posting about babies. Am I posting about babies? No. Stop asking me. So I was like, I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna make myself feel better and like shut everyone up. And I'm just gonna look into freezing my eggs. And I was shocked at how affordable it was to do in Barcelona, which is a place that I call home. I'll say it's like my third home, I guess. And I have a lot of friends there, and I had remembered them talking about it as well. So I had like a support system there of expat women who lived there and had gone through the process. So, and all they could do was rave about it. Like they were so supportive as compared to people that I talked to in the U.S. who were like, oh, it was terrifying, or oh, it was so expensive. On the contrary, my friends in Barcelona were like very, very like, yeah, definitely do it. It doesn't hurt at all. I was like perfectly fine the next day. If you need any help, I'll come with you, or like, I'll come over and hang out with you. And that really made it a lot easier. It was like a no-brainer. I think it was like maybe $3,000 for the meds, the process, and storing for 5 years. And I was like, why wouldn't I do this? So yeah, I left Sardinia after meeting my now fiance, and I went and I froze my eggs. And yeah, it was perfectly fine. I went like 3 days afterwards. I went to do my group trips in Africa. Slightly uncomfortable on the plane, but it was like I felt so much less stressed, and also it was nice to not feel like I needed to pressure myself to move quickly in a relationship, even though the contrary that happened, the universe made that happen anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. I think that's a good example of what you were talking about was just like, you're sharing this because it could been, the story may benefit others. In that case, I know you wrote that there were around 50 women who reached out, and 5 had gone to Barcelona for the procedure. So for those women, that was obviously something they were thinking about. And because you shared it and you shared it transparently, I imagine that was the thing that empowered them to go maybe do the thing that they were on the fence about. So
yeah. My friend in Barcelona, she works with my group trips as one of the co-hosts, And I said, why don't we set something up where if people are interested, but they're nervous about going to Barcelona and not being able to speak, Spanish, what if you can go and accompany them to do the appointment, since you already know what everything is, because she came with me. So we're still doing that. Like, we still get emails like every other week or so, and people are still coming. And it's cool that people actually listen and they're actually benefiting from it. And hopefully, feeling a little better about their bodies, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Antarctica, you've been there 3 times. I think 3 times. You said you're going your 4th, correct me if I'm wrong. And this is the continent that, people that want to go to all 7 continents, of course, this is the one that's the most challenging. So I thought, wow, you've been there 3 times. You've probably seen it all and done it all in terms of, how to get there and the logistics and the research. And obviously chatting with you, you're a very thorough person. You once you dig into something, you dig into it. And so I thought you would be the perfect person to get some advice for anybody listening that's like, you know what? I'm going to hit that like 7th continent at some point, but I need some help. Like, and I was wondering, I'm not sure how to break this down, but I was thinking if we could break it down, I don't know if there's a cheap, intermediate, and obviously there's a luxury version of everything, right? Is there a cheap version of it? I don't know. Like, what, if we're breaking it down budget wise, like, what does each experience look like? What's your best advice? How long does it take? All the FAQs that people would have.
Sure. So I'll start out by saying that Antarctica was one of my biggest bucket lists and the top place I never thought I'd ever get to. And now I've been there 3 times. So, and it was because I thought I would never be able to afford it. And yeah, but that has obviously, a lot has changed about Antarctica from my first thought about it like 8 years ago. It's weird because there's been so basically it was very unattainable. It was so expensive. But after COVID, a lot of the companies took a hard hit. And they lowered the prices and they got smart. It was actually, I have to say, like, my fault-ish that now there's so many like influencers doing trips there, and also like celebrities are doing trips there. It's very strange. I think it's becoming oversaturated, unfortunately. But the problem is slightly, the lowering of the price and the incorrect promoting of the destination. So let's start with the money stuff first, though, because like I said, that was my first complication with my dream of getting to Antarctica. Back then, I think it was like $6,000 for a twin room. So one berth. So you share the room. And that was pretty cheap. And even now, I think my cheapest berth is around, I want to say 6,900, and that's for a triple room. So you share it with 2 other people. It's a fairly small room, but for the cheapest price, a lot of people opt for it. That's the one that sells out the fastest. People are just really willing to get the lowest price, no matter the comfort level, which I don't really recommend because you spend like 6 days just at sea in the Drake Passage. So for me, it's important to be comfortable. So other ways like budget hacks, I can't really hack Antarctica. There's one way that I had tried doing before I got my first trip. And that was, I had read that you can post up in Ushuaia if you have time and money, because Ushuaia is also very expensive. And you can wait to see if any of the expeditions have cancellations last minute. And sometimes they'll lower the prices to sell last minute cabins. I talked to a couple, when I was doing actually Everest Base Camp, I was talking to a couple, and they had said they had recently tried to do that, but they ended up waiting in Ushuaia for 2 weeks without getting any good pricing. And basically they wasted a lot of money on the hotels in Ushuaia. So I can't fully recommend that option. The other option for super budget is just, all of these Antarctica companies now, like they're not like really caring too much who is booking it. They're just trying to get bookings. So a lot of them I've been seeing specials. They do like the Black Friday deals, blah, blah, blah. They also offer us, the influencers, really good group rates. So I know for a fact that my rates are like 20% less than what they advertise for people booking it individually on the website. So, I mean, if someone was smart, I don't want people to do this. I prefer people to come on my trip if they actually like me and my stuff. But you could technically get the same trip through an influencer for cheaper. And then the other way, like if you're super, super determined and if you happen to be something like, a photographer or if you have any experience hosting trips yourself, I know that I personally have taken two different photographers on my trips. They had photography spots, so it wasn't free, but it was still half price. It was like $3,000. And then I'll most likely be taking my co-host with me for free this coming year because I have over 50 people and I need help.
Okay. So there you go. Somebody can email you and be like, "Can I help you?" No. All right.
No, let me know. Wait. You know everyone else doing this.
Yeah. All right. So, for the person going, if you could just recap sort of the budget range you're looking at spending. It's 6 days at sea both ways, I guess.
No, sorry. It's 10 days at sea, but 6 of those days you are on the boat and not off the boat at all, like no landings.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, okay, let me back up. So the cheapest I would say is probably going to be around, let's say $7,000 for just the berth. And that is likely going to be in a turtle cabin. But all of your meals are included. The only thing not included really on the boat is like alcohol. But you can usually bring your own alcohol. I'll get to that another time. Anyway, but the main cabins that people are mid-range, the ones that I like, are twin category C, and I specifically choose a boat called Ocean Endeavor. It's not the brand of the companies. The actual ship is the Ocean Endeavor. It can have different companies. They have really nice new balcony cabins. So those ones are like around upper 8,000 to 9,000, and that's what a lot of people opt for as the next highest booking I have is for those Cat Cs. And then there's ones lower in between. So there's like $7,000 ones that are twins, but they're porthole. And then the higher ones, of course, are the suites that I am very grateful and fortunate that I get to stay in. Those ones are like $14,000.
Gotcha. Okay. And just the experience as far as when you get, like, I literally know nothing about travel to Antarctica. So, I did an interview a long time ago with some people that worked there, and that was their hack. Like, they got jobs there, and then they were able to get there and get everything covered. And that's a pretty cool thing too. If you got time on your hands, if you're like somebody that's traveling and you can get a gig there. So we had some resources there. But as far as the travel experience, where do you stay? Do you keep staying on the boat even when you get there? Are there places to stay there? What are the things to do that you recommend? Yeah. Give us paint the picture for us, Alyssa.
Okay. So basically, for starters, you need to go in summer. And summer in Antarctica is opposite of summer in US probably. So the best months, I would say, in my opinion, are December, January, and then into February. I always have gone in December and always have had really good luck. So basically what you need to do, you're going to spend probably close to $1,500 to $2,000 additionally just to get down to Ushuaia, which is where the normal starting point is for the typical 10-day Peninsula Antarctica trip, which is the most affordable trip to Antarctica. So there's other options you could do where you fly there if you have an extra 10 grand or more. Some of them leave from Australia, but I don't have any experience with that. So I'm just going to tell you about the typical 10 or 11-day peninsula trip. So you need to get down to Ushuaia, which is the southernmost tip of South America, also known as Fin del Mundo, or End of the World, which sounds terrifying, especially when you're about to get on a ship into the Drake Passage. But these ships are built for it, so don't be too scared. Just bring a lot of seasickness medicine. So to get down to Ushuaia, usually the most affordable and easy option is to fly to Buenos Aires. I have also gone to Santiago. If you have time, you can do other trips as well, like Patagonia. And then you just need to get to Ushuaia. And again, remember that those hotels down there are usually pricey, and they book up. The cheaper places book up really fast. Like, they have some hostel options, but they book up really fast. So you'll spend probably a night in Ushuaia, and the next day you get on the ship, and you'll be on that ship for the next 10 days. And so what I was saying about 6 of those days is that you don't reach the peninsula or any of the islands for 2 to 3 days. It depends on how good or bad the Drake Passage is. So you either get the Drake Shake or you get the Drake Lake. pray that you get the drink link.
Okay.
So, and it's not soon after you leave Ushuaia, you go through the Beagle Channel. You'll think all is well and dandy. And this is where my viral video happened, because we were on the back deck. We were drinking wine. We thought everything was fine and dandy because we were cruising. Everything was smooth. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, the boat started rocking so bad that it feels like, like one of those roller coaster things where you're all the way at the top and suddenly it just drops, and it's the free fall feeling. So it's like a side to side and then up down movement. It's really unsettling. And I was like, this is so annoying. So I literally sat down because everyone was still standing and everyone was falling over. I sat down and my whole body started moving. And I was like, no way. I wonder if I would slide if I laid down. So I laid on my side, and sure enough, I was sliding back and forth across the deck.
Oh my God.
And everyone's like laughing their asses off, recording me from all angles. And finally, it got so intense that I remember my camera, I had a DJI Pocket, the little slender thing, came out of my pocket, and I looked up and it was above my head. And I looked down and my feet were parallel with the sea. And I was like, all right, guys, time to go inside.
Whoa. Okay. So that can get intense.
Yeah. So a lot of people have worries about that part because they get really seasick. But all I can say is, so do I. And I still continue to go. It doesn't prevent me from going after my dreams. I just take a lot of Dramamine. I've tried taking patches, but usually Dramamine works the best. And they also have a doctor on board who, if you forget your medicine for some reason, they'll give you medicine. If you do start puking, they'll give you antiemetics. They really help you out a lot there. You're in good hands. But a lot of people, every single time without fail, I've puked the first day because I'm just not ready. I'm not prepared for when it's going to hit me. But after that, you just get used to it. You just have to laugh about it the rest of the time.
Right on.
But anyway.
Seasickness is so intense. It's
awful. But we do our best. But yeah, so for those 2 or 3 days when you're just on the water, you do like 3 meals a day. Unless you're sick, then you stay in your room, but they'll bring you food if you want. They have lots of entertainment, lots of informational lectures. So they'll teach you all about Antarctica, the animals, the water, the not kelp, but not plankton, the krill. Krill is very, very important to all people of Antarctica and to the world. So you'll learn all about krill and all the other animals, impacts of global warming, how to do your part to kind of combat it or reverse it, I guess. And then they have some entertaining things at night sometimes, like little shows they put on, or just people dance in like the little tiny discotheque thingy they have. And a lot of people get drunk. So that's one way to pass your time on there. I was just going to get to the part where you actually finally arrive.
Right, cool.
You have like 3 or 4 days, depending on the weather, to do your landings. And you usually do 2 landings per day, as well as 2 Zodiac rides. And Zodiacs are the small inflatable boats with motors. There's only a certain amount of people allowed on each landing at a time. So if it's like maybe 75 or 100 people, while the other people are waiting, actually it's way less than that, probably like 50 people. But while the rest of the people are waiting, they take you on the Zodiac rides so that you can see wildlife and see the glaciers and the icebergs. And then the rest of the time you're back on the boat waiting for the next time to go out. And then they do have a few activities that sell out really fast. There's not a ton of spots for them. And the first one that most people are interested in is the sea kayaking, which I tried, and it was so cold that I will probably never kayak again. But it was very interesting. I've also done my very first trip. I did paddleboarding, which hardly any ships offer now, I think, because too many people fall in. But that was intense. I had a leopard seal come up to my board and pop its head up in front of me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
And then the other one was ice camping, but I thought I was going to die. That's one of the few times in my life where I did think I was going to die. I was going to get buried alive by snow.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to die. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. But yeah, you're going back for a 4th time. So there's something. And then you lead trips there, right? So we can link up to that. Okay, cool. Certainly not the most affordable place, but also at the same time, where there's a will, there's a
It's
way,
like
I
it's
suppose.
definitely a bucket list destination, and I would say once in a lifetime. But again, I'm about to go there for the fourth time. But from the feedback that I've had, I've brought now almost 150 people there, and all I hear is the most amazing things from them. Some people are even wanting to go a second time on the even longer expedition, the 21-day expedition. I have one girl who became an expedition leader. She's currently there working. Two people are working there now from my trip. And I have one girl coming back for the second time on the same trip in December, actually.
How does it feel for you to thinking about from where you started, just kind of wanting to travel and then doing it solo and kind of creating this life of full-time travel to now doing the tour company thing and being able to share that experience with other people? Or perhaps I imagine there's been some people on your trips that are taking their first trip that's maybe their most transformative trip to date, or their first big transformative trip, and bearing witness to that. How has that been for you?
It's honestly surreal, and like it's funny because I try to like remain humble, like no matter how many bookings I get, no matter how much money I get, no matter like right now to me, like the world, it really is my oyster. I could literally book a flight and go anywhere in the world I wanted to. And that feeling makes me so happy and like so proud of myself for keeping on with the overall dream of like making this type of life happen and being able to like go back to places multiple times that I never like. I always remember the first time I go to each place. I'm just like, I can't believe I'm back here again. Like, this is crazy. I thought this was once in a lifetime. And now people come here and they dress like me. They wear like everything I put on the packing list, they bring. They take the same photos as me. They want the same photos in the same spots as me. Like they act like it's such an honor when I offer to take a photo for them, and it's just like, it goes back again with the mentality where it was like fake it till you make it. And then I still am currently trying to wrap my head around the fact that I actually did make it, without getting too egotistical or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, well, on that note, in terms of defining success, do you have an awareness around that in terms of being able to, like you said, you made it. And I think that's a healthy thing to say, actually, because there is the disposition that anybody can easily have, where it's just, you just keep going for the next thing, or like, this has got to be bigger. Okay, I got to run more tours. I got to make more money.
Yeah. Yeah, right now I'm struggling with actually this is like the healthiest relationship I think I would say I've ever been in because my fiance really encourages me to, so does like my mom though and my friends. They're like why are you still so worried about like money and working? Like why do you work so much? Because you have money. I have a home. I bought a home. I don't have any debt. I have literally nothing that I owe anything. And I have my residual income set up and I still like right now, I tell myself if I can get, maybe 3 of my group trips booked a year in advance, which I've already done, I'll stop worrying so much and I'll start doing more things that I actually want to be doing, like writing my next book and, doing the podcast and doing a YouTube channel. And I even recently ordered stuff to do painting, like just regular. I used to paint a lot before I traveled. So I bought stuff to do paintings and make candles and like I actually listen to my fiance when he says, "Can you stop working to come have lunch with me?" And lunch is 2 hours, by the way. So that's a big step for me to stop
Right.
stop working, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's amazing to hear. Yeah. Congrats. That says a lot for sort of a transient nomad when you're making your first sort of non-nomadic purchase. Like if you buy paint stuff, like, oh, this
I bought
takes up
paint.
room. Like I have to have, keep this somewhere. And oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's
Yeah.
definitely funny. Yeah. And it's funny. It's like I enjoy things that are so normal seem so foreign to me. Like whenever we go grocery shopping, I think it's so funny. Like, I don't know why. I just think it's hilarious to go grocery shopping with someone and like you're sharing food for the place that you share living in that you're going to cook together. And I'm like, that's weird.
You're doing everyday life things. It's well, that's a whole other journey to appreciate, right? It is. I mean, it takes a time to. I was nomadic for 10 years back in the day, so yeah, it took time getting used to the sort of the regular life routines that I was craving, but I didn't really know how to like function in them at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah. Sometimes I like them. Sometimes I don't. he just helped me get a motorbike because he could tell that even after like a week and a half, I was starting to get like anxiety about not going places. And he literally found me this motorbike and he's like, there, now you can go to the beaches and you can go wherever you want.
Fuel your wanderlust. How do you like the
Yeah.
travel podcasting?
Again, I'm nowhere near as professional as you are. I tend to like ramble, as I'm sure you've noticed on here. I'm just trying to get more of like a schedule down to where I actually remember to record things and post them. Because of course I can't just be like, oh, I'm going to record something. Then I want to also write a blog post supplement to it and then make a video on Instagram. So I'm trying to get my group trip stuff done and put away for next year and then start on my passion projects.
Right on. Well, I mean, it's cool. It's always like I said, your welcome addition to the podcasting universe. Not that I'm not the formal ambassador here, but somebody's got to say welcome to the travel podcasting world. So here you go. A couple quick hit questions before I let you go because you've been to so many places, and I kind of made a small list of just the most, I'll say, underrated or maybe unthought of destinations for ... So maybe not the obvious things, but I've got some things here. So, and just again, off the top of your head, I'm putting you on the spot here because you didn't get any of this in advance, but let's say, what's your most underrated or maybe unthought of destination for being awestruck?
Awestruck? I was awestruck recently last year in Papua New Guinea. I'm obsessed with that place and I'm very excited to go back there in September.
Wow. Okay. What was it about it?
I had listened to media and only the social media posts that I saw from people, and most content creators had made it seem like they're so badass for going to this former cannibalism place, and that's what they heavily focused on. And I did not see anything about how beautiful the coastal areas are and the islands are. And I can tell you, number one, my highlight of last year, well, maybe besides meeting my fiance, no, maybe this is topping it. They took me on a boat ride in Rabaul area, and we went around these little dots of islands that have local tribes living on them still. And there's these little kids. They're so cute. They have a specific gene in that area where they have really tan skin, but blonde curly hair and light like honey eyes. And they're just so beautiful. And they were like, come jump off. They didn't say this, but they were like motioning, like, come jump off, come cliff jump with us. So I had to put my fears aside and go up onto a small island where I had only heard in the past of people, getting attacked for going on to small islands. And I jumped off the cliff with these kids, and then we continued the boat ride, and I had like wild dolphins jumping at my feet for over an hour in front of the boat.
Whoa.
It was so magical. It was incredible. It was like
all right.
Such an adventure.
There you go. Awestruck, magical. That pretty much sums it up. All right. How about a place for, I know you have a fiance now, but I'm sure you've dated in the past or had, whatever romances here and there, but just a place for romance. It can be with a current partner or perhaps, somebody you meet there or whatever. Just like when you think about romance.
Yeah. If you're trying to meet someone, I would say Barcelona for sure. It's like a melting pot of different cultures. It's not just like Spaniards and Catalans. It's a lot of different people from all over the world. And I like that place in general because it reminds me a bit of LA where everyone's very like easygoing and they come together because they have big dreams. And it's just fun there. And, a lot of young single people. But as far as like for romance, my idea of romantic spots is a lot different than most people, I would assume. But let me think. What's romantic? I like adventure stuff. I think it's really like romantic to be on like a hike into a waterfall or something rather than like maybe like overwater bungalow. I can give you plenty of tips for overwater bungalows though. I've had plenty of solo honeymoons in places like that. Palau is really cool.
Okay, but let's go with the adventure mindset for romance.
I thought it would always be cool to do Everest Base Camp with a partner.
Yeah.
But
okay.
After doing it solo and having a couple on that trip, I no longer think I can say that. It looked like it was pretty stressful. So let me think of somewhere that's not stressful. Let's go with Okinawa, Japan. That sounds nice.
Okay. That sounds great. I mean, a little stress can be okay, right? My wife and I did the Manaslu trek in
Oh yeah.
Everest, and it was or in Nepal, and it was yeah, it was cool to be sharing that experience together, even though like crazy things happened and like my back froze up and she had like all kinds of stuff. But that's, that brings you close together too when you go through that stuff.
Yeah, at the end, I'm sure you get close together. But
How about a place for having a meaningful connection with locals? Of course, this is totally subjective. Maybe it's some place where you had some magical times, but I'm just curious.
Okay, let's see. I had some really good experiences. I mentioned this earlier. A place called Burundi. It's a really tiny country under Rwanda next to Tanzania, and they're so highly underrated. Um, and they brought me there as a collaboration, and they were just so kind to me, and they just really wanted to like be around me and hang out and be friends. And they got me like local photographers. They took me on like the tour, and it was like a photographer, the tour guide, the driver, and they were just so cool. And then they also brought me to get dressed up in their local clothing, which I was probably the first, I'm not first, but I was definitely the only foreigner there at the time. And everyone was just like coming to see me and dressed in their local clothes. And then they brought me to a wedding and what they call a dowry party, which is even more festive than a marriage. So that was like the most immersed I think I've gotten into a culture besides like moving and living with someone.
Right. Wow.
It was really cool.
That sounds epic. All right, last one, because you mentioned adventure, and I always love when you can, have some kind of, doesn't have to be a crazy adventure, but some kind of adventure where you get dirty and maybe you're dirty for some days or weeks even. And then afterwards you come, and it doesn't have to be the fanciest place, but you have like a decent place to stay and you get a good shower and you have like an awesome meal, you spoil yourself a little bit. Maybe you hit a hot spring or something, a place where you're kind of like, you can get dirty and then spoil yourself a bit afterwards.
Okay, so I'll go off the top of my head and say Socotra Island because there's no hotels there most of the time. There's hotels in the main city, but in order to see the top sites, you have to go on an adventure and go camping for about a week. And then I think in my mind, spoiling is that you get to camp on the beach. So there's like these freshwater streams that you can like shower in. But the luxury aspect of that is that in order to get out of Socotra Island, you have to go back to Abu Dhabi, where they have really nice hotels and resorts. So I did camping in Socotra Island all week. I was very dirty and very ready for a fluffy bed. And then I went to Abu Dhabi and I stayed at the Radisson Blue Corniche, which is right on the beach. So I got to just walk to the beach and do the beach club to recover from that.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, I so appreciate your time. I've loved this conversation with you. And just to remind people, mylifesamovie.com. It seems like the central hub to find all your trips and your social media and the podcast and everything. We'll link up to that. Is there anywhere else like people should reach out to get in touch if they want?
It's technically, nowadays, it's technically My Life's a Travel Movie. It redirects to My Life's a Movie, but okay. On all social media platforms, it's My Life's a Travel Movie.
Cool. Is there like a life motto or a quote or any sort of like guiding principle you're living by right now, or just some last words of wisdom you want to share here?
Yeah, the one quote that I lived by when I was first starting to go after my dream of getting paid to travel was it was dreams don't work unless you do, which is probably why I became such a workaholic, because I was just like, I'm going to keep working until my dreams come true. But it still sticks with me to this day, because I know if you don't put in the work, you don't get what you want. And then I get really sick of people saying, oh, I had the idea to be a travel blogger once, I should have done that. And it's like, no, that's not how this works. Like, you have to spend a lot of time and work to make it happen. And then the one I saw recently when I was doing Everest Base Camp on one of the memorials of one of the people who died, it was a quote by the first African female president. And it was, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough.
Nice. Two powerful quotes there. And I had a blast getting to know you, Alyssa.
Thank you for having me.
There you have it. I want to say thanks to Alyssa for stopping by, for sharing her story. I was inspired by it. Hope you enjoyed the conversation, and I'm going to leave you with a quote to wrap this up. I think it's a good one in just a moment. First, a quick reminder, zerototravel.com/newsletter. You can sign up for our free newsletter over there. I write it once a week and send it out, and love to keep in touch with listeners. And you can join the community over there. It's free. Speaking of the community, thank you for being a part of this listening community. I like to say that as often as I can. This is a community-powered show, and I make this show for you. So if you have any advice, suggestions, guests you want me to have on, anything, this is going into my 12th year doing this soon, and I have to say I am as excited about it as ever. I want to thank everybody who's taken the time to get in touch or leave a review or anything like that. Just know that I've read your emails. I have gotten your messages. I have seen the kind things you've said, and I really, truly appreciate it because it's the fuel that keeps this fire burning. All right. I'll leave you with a quote from one of my faves, Wayne Dyer, who wrote a great book, by the way, that I very much enjoyed called The Power of Intention. Read it a long time ago. I got to reread that one soon. Anyway, he said, when you judge another, you do not define them, you define yourself. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love to you and yours. Cheers.
This podcast has been brought to you by zerototravel.com. Ideas and advice to make your travel dreams a reality.